the same charging methods work for single speed and inverter driven systems. Well, is that true, guys?
No.
No.
All right. So, what are some of the differences that we might discuss between charging single speed versus inverter driven equipment?
Well, realistically, whether you're talking single speed or two speed versus an inverter driven system, when you're talking single speed or two speed, you have a means or a method to lock that into second speed, or you only have the one speed. We have a truly inverter driven unit, such as the GREE units that we sell and support. These are fully variable systems. So in order to charge them properly, you would have to know, you'd have to have a way to lock them to a specified speed and then have the data behind it to be able to charge it adequately. So that's why we tell you the easiest way on an inverter driven system is you're going to have to actually, provided you've got to mess with the charge in the outdoor unit. Let's talk about that for a minute. So on a new installation, your charge is already in your outdoor unit. So all we really need to do is calculate the charge we need for our line set in our indoor unit. But let's say we're servicing it. Now, it's a little different story. We've got to know that calculation for our line set and our indoor unit. We're also going to need to know the charge for the outdoor unit. And you're going to best off recover that refrigerant and weigh that charge back in. Because that we don't have set speeds to it. The thing's going to do everything it can to save itself, unlike unitary product. It doesn't have that ability. That's one of the great advantages to the GREE equipment, is these things are loaded with pressure sensors, the misters, the board programming, all of these things that work together to protect that unit. So if we just try to charge on the fly, all we're really doing is doing what? Throwing it into protection mode.
Right.
So we're not getting accurate readings. We're not getting accurate information. That's why we need to weigh the charge in so that we know that machine got the proper charge.
People like to talk about, hey, don't put the gauges on it. I'm here to tell you, put the gauges on it. But that being said, in cool mode, what are we looking for? Delta T from the supply and return, 20 to 25 degrees. So that's a good thing that you can check relatively easy without getting the gauges out to know that it's in a good spot with your charge. And then if you do have delta T that's way outside of parameters, high or low, because high is bad too, right?
Right.
So high or low, then we need to go ahead, hook the gauges up, check the charge, see where we're at.
You don't always have to hook gauges though.
That's true.
Not if you have a multi-pro unit. All you need is a service tool.
You're right.
That's the charge.
You're right.
So I can not only get the pressures, I can also get all the temperatures of the indoor coil, outdoor coil, discharge temp. There's a whole wealth of information. But you can also get that same information if we use a mini split service tool.
Correct.
So if you really don't want to put gauges on, we have the tools available that will keep you from having to put gauges on there for every time you go out to do preventive maintenance and stuff like that.
Very true.
Make your determinations on that, whether or not you need to put gauges on. So, but you're right. You know, if you don't have that tool, yeah, put a gauge on it. Make sure it ain't flat. And what's one of the biggest things that we will tell guys to do before they even turn the unit on if they suspect?
What's the standing pressure?
Standing pressure. That unit
It's a good indication of where we're at.
45 minutes.
Yeah.
You hook the gauge up to it, it should be equal to your outdoor ambient temperature.
Right.
It's not, if it's significantly lower than that, good possibility that unit's low on charge. Hey, Seuss, you want to throw anything on that, or I guess James didn't get introduced him yet. Maybe we need James to do that.
Yeah, we can do that. This is our newest team member, Jesus Fraga. He was a contractor last week. So everybody, Jesus Fraga.
Welcome to the team, Jesus.
Hey, nice to finally be aboard. So, but yeah, I do have a couple of things to add on that. As far as adding or checking charge in a unit, especially when you're doing maintenance, people go back and forth whether it's necessary to do so or not. But those are two good points. You always want to verify that there is standing pressure in the system. But if there's other means as to where you don't have to go and connect, well, that's great too, because you also don't want to lose any refrigerant, as you're coming on and off of the port. So I can see how it's just good to be mindful on both sides of the wheel.
I guess the difference is, were you going out there because there's a problem, or are you going out there just for maintenance?
That's true, yeah.
Just
So
going
I
out for
guess
maintenance, and they got no issues. I wouldn't throw gauges on there without, running preliminary checks first.
Yeah.
Like Daniel was talking about, Delta T, cooling mode. If I got 25 degree Delta T, I don't need to be putting gauges on that machine. But if it's, 10 degree Delta T, I need to put a gauge on there.
yeah, maybe a problem there. Yeah, I agree.
The argument can be made both ways, but the bottom line is that what really started us into this whole discussion is charging versus single speed
Versus inverter.
Inverter.
Right.
We cannot tell you how to charge that unit just by turning the machine on and just adding charge and having a specific pressure or a specific temperature because of the fact that
Or a charging chart. I get that question a lot. People will ask for a charging chart.
there's no set speed to that compressor.
Right.
And that has to have a set speed in order for you to get that charged properly. So, and they don't give us the ability to do that. And I don't know any truly inverter-driven equipment manufacturer out there that gives you the ability to lock the speed and get the charging parameters behind it.
Right.
Yeah, that's I think you got it all covered. It's about everything I could think of as far as that goes. Yeah, I mean, I would say the one thing to remember is it is still an air conditioner, right? I know that we can have the tendency to walk up to something we're maybe not that familiar with and just assume it must be an electronic problem or something like that. I don't know how many times I took a tech support call where it was completely empty, you know? They,
Yeah.
and they, depending on who they're calling, if they call another manufacturer, they might wait 3 hours while listening to some terrible hold music. Finally get somebody and it's like, well, do you have any refrigerant in it? Oh, I was told not to hook up gauges to it. Don't do that.
I've heard that many times. I was
You're
waiting on you.
Right. You're there for a problem. You spent some real money on those gauges. You might have the fancy digital ones or whatever. I don't have any of those. But you might have the fancy digital. Just hook them up, You might have the Bluetooth ones or whatever that play music or something. Hook them up, right?